Yo, how's it going? Yeah, sorry, just rolling into the old office right at 8 o'clock and clicking go live, I guess. Nothing planned for this week. I forgot, I didn't even think to ask a lot of different players, a lot of different people to come in and stream with me. No, just a typical Monday casual stream, I guess. If you got any questions or answers for me, those would be great. Want me to go look up some nerd stuff? That'd be all wonderful. I've mostly been arguing about the combine. Ooh. It looks like a nerd got back to me about a question I had on his data, so that's exciting. It's exciting for me. And I'm going to go see what he wants and continue to fail to work projections. But yeah. That's what I'm up to. How about you? How you doing? We got anyone in here? There's 12 of you watching. I see you out there. Don't be so quiet. The messages. Sorry, I kind of took a break. I just went upstairs to get coffee, and then I was like, ooh, you know what I haven't watched? The new Snyder version of the Justice League thingamajiggy. So that was 3 hours of my life right there. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Thoughts? Mostly that I don't understand why the movie kept ending and yet not being over. It's a little better, I guess. Mostly it just seems like a wasted opportunity not to piggyback on and take Marvel's audience after they killed off their main character. I could have just wrote that, but they didn't want to put in the time. I can't look at student emails on stream. That would be legal. How you doing, Cody? Ooh. I had another video go live. Scheduling a lot of videos this week. Seth Williams Take Two. Nice. Speaking of which, Cody, wasn't it you I was talking about with Seth Williams recently? Where's it? I'm just trying to share this video with Twitter. Does it have to be this difficult? Share screen. Sure, why not? Let's keep it small though, because there's not much going on over here right now. Oh, I'm sure. Oh, Jesus. I shared the wrong one just now. Look at that. Seth Williams' new age, or actual correct age rather than a new age. I keep making that mistake. Did relatively little to his profile. It just helps confirm him in the category of players I like. I spent a lot of time last night filtering different categories, actually. Just looking through the rookie database, like what if players only have a breakout season on? That thing's right. Like, we're going to stop doing that for like if players have 20 age 20 breakout age at the 20% threshold, but also under a 20 age at the 30% threshold who only broke out in the first or second year of their career. How does that look class by class by class? And it made a pretty good sample group, but you like cut out a lot of players. Like you have to ignore AJ Green and you have to ignore this and ignore that. I essentially think the filtering system we've kind of developed to, highlight the best players per class. I mean, it's not that it doesn't whittle it down, but just an understanding of their production basically gets you that, and also doesn't weed out like AJ Green, or Calvin Ridley, unless you put a little proviso in there for career year breakout, which doesn't work for everyone else. And then when you go in year by year, suddenly you have to look at 20 rookies instead of 10. And I do think I can find more comparisons in this year's class to 2013. I don't think it's important. Like, you don't have to place this time in the chronology of past wide receiver classes. I don't know why I spent so much time thinking about that, but I do. It felt a lot like 2015 and 16 of the last couple of weeks, but then I was doing that filtering work, and I was like, you know what? One of the aspects of the 2021 wide receiver class that it really isn't present in 2015 and 16 is the dearth of players that excel on a conference and team level, but not at a compared to past rookie players level. And really in 15 and 16, there was a pretty select group of players who were above average when you compared them to past players, but they had a lot of context stats to their team and their conference, and they looked okay. And some of those players hit, to be fair. But it's not all about age. But when you look at 2013, I think it's 2013, it's definitely before 2014. And one of those classes, it's the same thing. You have a relatively low number of players hitting. Not all of them were the favorite in the draft class. Not all of them were the highest drafted. Like I say, one or two, one that definitely fell in rookie drafts. And you have the same depth of players that excel on a team and conference level, but not at a compared to hits level. Now, again, I insist just compare them to hits and move on. You don't have to go out of your way to find the team and the conference adjustments, because most of the time they're just lying to you. But I get it. Like, some players only show up there. Jarvis Landry, frankly, looks kind of bad in some ways, but he looked very good if you took into context his team and his conference and so on and so forth, and you graphed it out, which is why that's part of the process. But have you ever worked with soccer data? Once, but I wasn't doing anything with it. Someone asked me to take a look at something to figure out how to work a calculation out. But like, I never played fantasy soccer before I came here. I didn't know fantasy sports were a thing before I moved to America. So like, it never crossed my desk. I have a hard time understanding how you score fantasy points in soccer as well. Like, I don't know. I don't get me wrong. I've seen some of the scoring systems, and I don't know. It doesn't relate exactly. Like, you get points for shots on goal, and you also get points for passes, I think. But you also get the most points for enough points for goals that it makes everything else kind of irrelevant, as I understand it. And goals are kind of as rare and hard to predict as touchdowns. And I don't know, it's interesting, but I've never really delved into it. Data from other sports. No, man, do I not look haggard enough right now? This is me on one sport. Can you imagine me on two or three? I have thought about it, but honestly, and I know the off season is break season, but it really doesn't stop for me. Like the day rolled over from the end of the NFL to the start of the off season, and my week and my daily routine stayed exactly the same. And I'm not like, ooh, I grind so hard. It's just when you're doing it as a hobby and you're doing it in your spare time, like, those 3 months seem like a break. But honestly, I just need that to spin my wheels to catch up with what people who can actually work it as a job actually do, and just in the small amount of spare time I get. So, like, the idea of fitting in another sport, I'm sure I could, but like, I know I don't play it. At this point, I'd just be picking it up to say that I do. I don't know why. Every time there's a Sweet 16 or a playoff or a DFS competition, I kind of feel like picking it up, but I never have just yet. Oh, I also learned a new Excel function while trying to pick apart or trying to understand this one particular nerd's data on BMI. I had to learn what's it called? Sum production formula. I'd never met that before. It's pretty interesting. You can kind of use it in the way you use count if f or sum if f, but it can use array formulas apparently inside it. And I don't know, it's pretty neat to play with. Learn some stuff. That, I guess, hang on, where am I? No, I was going to show you some of what I was talking about. I guess, since I mentioned it, I've added some updates to my version of the database. I don't know if they'll go publish because I'm not sure how confusing or helpful they'll be, but I'm trying them out. I don't need this one because that's live. Yeah, I can show you this. If you're interested in what I'm up to, you know. What I ended up adding in here, where am I? I added 2 or 3 or 4 positions actually, but I'm trying to include like an overview across the 3 areas we mostly spend our time talking about. So where is it? Instead of having, well, I'll still have all these stats in here, but I'm looking for a way that newbies or most of the people that look at my database and go, "Whoa, no, not interested in any of that," can actually get some use out of it. So, right, yeah. What I was doing is trying to show their yards per team pass attempt in the best way possible, taking into account that Dominator tries to do that, but it way too often double counts a player's single year, for example. And I have the Dominator formulas written in here for yards per team pass attempt and just receiving yards as well. And that it's okay. It's better. It's better than pure Dominator. It gets like a 16% as opposed to 10% R squared. But it still feels like you're still double counting sometimes. And so what I was looking at is their average above the conference average every year they played, and then above the team average, and I can adjust that based on the difference between what the team was doing on average and what the conference was doing on average, and that actually raised its predictive power to around about as predictive as conference stats. Both of them still kind of pale in comparisons to age-adjusted stats for wide receivers, but I thought it was an interesting three-tier look, and that's kind of what I was playing with when I was filtering last night. I was going class by class, if I can unhide some of this stuff. And just looking how different players who hit or didn't hit kind of looked, and does it do a good visual description of who's good and who's bad? And it does, and it doesn't, like most analytics, frankly. But I thought it was pretty interesting. Yeah, let's just hide all of that. Some of this stuff is just in my, because I use some columns to, calculate other columns, and they're like user columns that you don't need to look at, because it just gets in the way of all these gorgeous stats. So, yeah, let's just look at top 12 players, I guess, at the wide receiver position. And I did this for running back and also tight end as well. Just like a quick, could I create something that is a quick visual look that isn't too misleading, and so on and so forth? And so far, like, no, I can't really, but it's interesting. It's interesting. So these are just players that have had top 12 seasons. And if we get rid of the 2020 class, I guess we'll keep it in there. Why not? You can see their view across, conference, team, and age. You can see that AJ Brown is kind of right on the cusp of that age comparison, but he was above average in both his conference and his team. And one of the things that strikes you is how many players kind of look good if you just visually reference it. But, and this was one of the things I found interesting, at least, if you go by team, especially by draft year, then it does a really good explanation of explaining what kind of prospect you're looking at for this class in that year, kind of a thing. Hey, wait. Where's team? I specifically asked for team at this table. Oh, okay. I went the wrong way. All right, you could also go by conference, I guess, but yeah, I'm just playing around with it, and this is the kind of thing I think other people can make in the database if they just want it or want to improve upon what this fake nerd can do. That'd be fine. But I do get an awful lot of messages of people that, they just want to go look at a quick stat or get a, what the analytics say in one simple word: good, bad, ugly, better than Justin Jefferson, what? And it's really, I guess, my pre-draft model is the best look at that. But, it's not it. And so if you look by team, to me, this did a pretty good job. And this is just looking at players with top 12 seasons. I forgot to unfilter it. I'm a mess. Again, I literally just sat down. Okay? Give me a break. I'm not a professional. Okay. So, yeah. And we'll sort it by age and yards per team pass attempt. And so if you look at every prospect from Alabama, at the top, you've got, Amari Cooper. Jerry Jeudy comes in second, then it's Devontae Smith, then it's Julio Jones, and then it's Calvin Ridley. Now, that order doesn't sound right to me either, but those are the right players surfacing to the top of the list, if you know what I mean. If you accept this isn't a ranking, just a sorting based on if it's a player that's above average in their situation, those are the right names, right? I do find it interesting that specifically Julio Jones is the least productive across this. Well, not really, but if you were just to think of it as a linear relationship, and that says something about Amari Cooper. And sometimes being good is being bad, but Again, people want to adjust it by team and conference, but as you can see, most players excel across all three if they're going to exponentially excel. And that got me on this kick of thinking about draft classes and if the N'Keal Harrys that are just too productive almost in their situation are identifiable, and I can't really find anything. It's frustrating because it's true, but it still doesn't rank, you know? Anyway, so yeah, I was creating this tiered system, and then I was like, well, maybe how dominant you are is really the explanation. You see that Julio Jones is actually one of the few players that was dominant, had an above average domination of receiving yards percentage, even from Alabama. Unfortunately, I've failed to find a way of combining those two things so that it can tell me that Julio Jones is the best prospect from this class and that Devontae Smith is kind of more in line with Jerry Jeudy. I know that because I spent a lot of time reading it, but that's not an easy thing for someone to pick up if they just go look at the database. That's essentially what I'm looking for. And yeah, it doesn't do that yet, but we're working. And what else did I say? Yeah, I put the same kind of columns in here for running back and tight end, just like a 3-tiered system, like based on the team, the conference, and also in a comparison to hits in this case, instead of age adjustment compared to hits, because age really doesn't have that much bearing at running back. Overall, I mean, it does and it doesn't. It's certainly not like wide receiver. So, and then I put it in at tight end as well. Actually came out as one of the best or better ways of looking at tight end, interestingly enough. I mean, they're all hitting the age adjustment or the comparison to hits are hitting around 18 to 21%, which is pretty high for a single column in this database data set for any position. But 18% is really good at tight end. Yeah, right there. Very few things come out that useful. I actually ended up converting my efficiency score into one of them. Because again, it was kind of doing a similar job, and again, that's why it's all practice. Hey Zach, how you doing? You want to come on? I'll drop a link. I was thinking for this live stream, by the way, I got a hold of. He freely posted because he's a stellar A+ guy. Like that's how I would start this stream if this was that stream. But where is it? Where's my thingamajig? Yeah, what's his name? ZWK at ZWK Football posted this research on Twitter talking about BMI, and I think I understand what his data is saying now and why it's not saying anything different. But again, the takeaway is something significantly different. But I had to dig into it to find out. But he posted, and seriously, like I had to learn, and I did, and I'm really grateful that I got to. I had to learn this, what is it called? Sum product function. I'd never seen that. Like I had to learn something about Excel to understand ZWK Football's sheet here. So he's like an A+ nerd. And he's definitely a better nerd to me that knows more about Excel and statistics, like off the charts. If you're into this stuff, some of the ways he's done this, you could call beautiful. Actually, I mean, I don't want to go there. Obviously, I've got such high T, I wouldn't call something like that beautiful. But like it could be, someone could possibly say that. Like I think it's serious research, and he did a really good job on it. I just still disagree that it's saying what some people seem to suggest that kind of research says. Maybe that's the best way of saying it. Sorry, I'm pausing thing because I'm getting some low internet signals right now. There we go. Close some of these tabs. Yeah, I had to lose some product. Look it up in Excel if you're interested, or on Google. It's really interesting type of formula. I've been creating an area movement for inertia and maximum bending stress for the last 4 hours. Talk nerdy to me. No, I think you covered all the nerdness we need on here. Some product really doesn't compare to that, I imagine. Height and body mass. Go away. All right. And he responded to me, and I haven't talked to him about it yet, and I really want to talk to him before like I comment about it. But I copied his data. I'm not affecting his sheet, to be real clear. Like, I wouldn't do that. That's like against the bro nerd code. But essentially, this is a graph that he was putting out on Twitter showing that he thinks, and most people interpret this to suggest, that the percentile buckets of BMI suggests that draft capital is blue and red is production based on BMI, essentially. And you see that BMI always falls below the draft capital spent. That's what he thinks he's showing. I think what he has successfully done, again, like many people, is describe who is in the hit bucket. It's describing who is producing very well, but it's not helping out in terms of probability for who ends up in the damn hit bucket in the first place, because there's a difference in proportionality of representation in the available players, and they're hitting at a proportional rate, which really means, and that's what my little yellow line is attempting to show here, that the distribution of the population is bang on pretty much a bell curve. And in fact, if I was struggling to do Excel and sheets actually, but let me try and fiddle with it here. You can actually, where is it? I don't know how to know that. Okay, let's just be honest about this. ZWK football is by far better at this than me. I'm more with a thing in his bonnet, whatever you call that. This is the trend line. If we take the trend line out and we put the color back into you fellas, and we stop it being what is it, logarithmic? Because I was playing with trying to show the distribution of the population, but instead, I think what might be a lot better description, is kind of this, because it shows how the population or the percentage of the sample actually kind of exactly mirrors the pattern he and BMI sends to stress, which I think might do a better job of explaining what I'm trying to say. Yeah, there it is. You see how this is the population of the players in the different buckets he's created for BMI, because frankly, like, I know he is rightly saying he's created even, there's a population even in each distribution bucket, but if you actually do the numbers, there's like one player here and there's 3 players over here. There's 2 players over there, and it's not what you're thinking of in terms of probability. And you can kind of see the population or the percentage of the entire sample size mapping pretty much exactly to draft capital and BMI production spent. So again, you're getting as much fantasy production as is proportional to those that are drafted in that range. I think it's saying the same thing. I think he's found a new way of describing who fantasy producers are, without accounting for representation of different players in the sample. So there you go. That's as nerdy as I can get. And again, excellent nerding. Like, this guy is smarter than me and knows much more about statistics very clearly. Not trying to take anything away from it. I just think we take a different thing away than he's actually representing when he puts out a graph like this. We're thinking that means Devontae Smith is less likely to produce, and I really don't think that's what BMI or 40 time or anything tells us. I don't. What up, PA? Howdy. Hey, Hollywood. How you doing? But again, I'm not breaking into it. I really want to talk to him about it, because I'm barely confident that I know what he's trying to represent here. To be honest with you. I mean, like I say, this is significant research. He's doing a good job. He knows what he's doing. Respect. All that. I think I screwed that up again. Shit. Yep. It should do it. Yeah, I was trying to add as little as possible. Like, I know this isn't his sheet, so I can't screw his up, but I was trying to. Still, I don't want it to be overly complicated. I want to change what he's representing. I want to show what I'm trying to describe in it. And it seems possible, but I have to talk to him about it just to be sure. Anyway, so that's something I was working on. Actually, I should probably just close that out and try and save our internet. Cody, I believe you sent me pro day numbers. That's what the email was about. Appreciate it. I really don't know how I'm going to add them up to the database yet. I'm probably going to look for a source that connects to one of the IDs I've already got in place. But I appreciate it. Yeah, we can just close that. All right. How you doing, Zach? Oh, God, this, like, they should let me move these things around. My face just keeps getting, I guess I'll roll over here. There you go. It's a weird thing because we're trying to account for both how well certain players perform and what types of players in the NFL values. Yeah, that's true. Like BMI, by the way, and 40 time, like, is really useful if you're trying to predict draft capital, but I'm not. Like, I don't care. I'm going to know that eventually. And once they are drafted, they're as likely to hit as anyone drafted based on combine metrics. And so it's not something I spend a lot of time losing sleep over, like I got to know that. And it's basically an equal proposition. All else is equal. Looking at them through combine statistics, so I get more interested in things that have signal outside of that, and that's age-adjusted production wide receivers, that's best year production for running backs, that's the last year of production for tight ends, that's absolutely nothing for quarterbacks. It's just not. What we're trying to do is look at rookie classes and guess which ones are going to be the type of productive that we care about. And we guess, it's a guess. What most statistics that tend to show a signal in BMI are doing is describing the proportion or the production of the hit group once it happens. Those are two different things. And if you look at the population in one and the population in the other, you find them relatively within a reasonable margin of error, basically distributed about the same in terms of combine statistics. In terms of age-adjusted statistics at wide receiver, it's very disproportionately represented in the hit group. And that's one simple way of seeing that matters. And it's also disproportionately related in terms of draft capital, which, again, is a thing we all know, right? You have more draft capital, you're more likely to break out. So you see a disproportional representation in the hit group than you do in all population, all players that are drafted, or all players that are on your draft board or played in college, or however you want to define that. And so the other game we can play, because that's the truth, like that's literally the truth. Anything that suggests otherwise, I mean, there's two questions. There's what is your sample? Because either the sample is way too restrictive, or it's way too broad, or you've removed players perhaps for unconscious biases trying to make it work. I mean, there's a lot of reasons a sample could be bad, because the NFL's entire sample is dirt trash. And the other question is what you're looking at actually describing or showing a predictive relationship as we surmise? In the case of ZWK, I think it's the second one. Like, he's done really great work to get there, and I think we're taking away from it something it doesn't actually imply. Because the truth is, it's not disproportionately represented in the sample. And so anything that suggests it is, I mean, my simple, like, I'm starting from an understanding of who is in that group we are seeking. And that doesn't even require being like smart, and then it's just what I'm grounded in. And so anything that misrepresents who is actually in that group, I mean, there's just some kind of and either it's trickery, and it's not the case in most cases. It's mostly either the sample is too restrictive, too broad, too cherry picked, or what the data actually depicts isn't what we are interpreting it to mean. It's actually a description of who is in that group, not the predictability of who is in that group. And that's like the fourth time I've tried to explain this, and I still don't think I've made myself very clear. Like, I used marbles last time and still no. But I think that's what a lot of people are trying to do with all these statistics from the combine. I agree with you, FYI. Yeah. And like I say, there's some real great use for it. Like, again, ZWK's research is going to be great for understanding who is more likely to get draft capital. But I'm not, and never will be working for an NFL team. Like, I have no such illusions that I can know or that I have the power to, or even that, like, if I was a gambling man, I guess there would be value in trying to guess them, but I don't. I'm a fantasy player, and I do rookie drafts after the NFL draft, and that's the thing I'm going to know. It's like, what if we predict their breakout age? I don't need to. All power to the people that do it. But the thing is, then fantasy guys get a hold of that, and I think because of that second problem that can be in the data, we reinterpret it because we use words like likely and outlier to mean things that are not what those things mean. And that, for a moron like me, has misled me very often. And I have to believe it's leading other people who are just casual people, or even really intense dynasty players that don't spend a lot of time thinking about math, because who really does that after school? So they don't understand the difference between a description of the proportion and the probability of who is in the proportion that you're trying to describe. And I mean, I literally have to look up how to calculate probability every time, because it's really weird stat. It's a really weird stat. Okay. It's one of those things you always think you understand until you see something outside of what you expect. And then you're like, wait, I probably have to learn that again. I'm missing. And that's probability, man. That's all of us. Like, we're all common with percentages because we're calculating tips, and we're aware of target share. If you play fantasy football, like, we get it. We get percentages. Go to England, ask Tom Kisselberry how common it is to have to calculate the percentage of something. Like, we don't do tips. It's not part of our everyday life. And honestly, despite being fairly mathematically literate, fairly like a B grade, like, it's hard for me to instantly create the percentage that creates the correct value for a tip. Like, I have to churn it through the gears. It's not an instinct. I don't have a guesstimation in my head already, because it's not part of your regular life. And so I'm drawing a comparison to that for probabilities, because you don't use probabilities in your daily life very well, which is why game theory, when it's ever expressed well, not by me, but by other people, always seems a little bit like, what? Like, you're meant to change your answer when the guy asks you, would you like to change your answer in a game show? Yeah, because that actually increases your odds of getting the right door. And that doesn't make sense, because we're not used to thinking in terms of probability, in the same way we're not used to thinking about exponential growth. And everyone had trouble understanding coronavirus expansion, for example. It's like, it's just a number that works differently than we are used to thinking of. It's not hard. It's not about smart. It's just not what we typically think. That's not the terms we typically think in. And so I think that's what's leading to a lot of, and honestly, then there are dishonest actors that will prey on that. It's like, I can prove that I'm definitely good and I make great, exciting content, and everyone's sub, and there's no accountability. And that's okay, because you're actually entertained and it's just fantasy football. But like, I'm not really interested in that. I'm just trying to make a better draft pick. That's it. So yeah. I ran about that much longer than I expected to. I thought I was going to be doing other things, but there you go. And before you ask, like, so what do we look at in? That's the nihilism that you should really be approaching fantasy football with. Like, I hate to tell you, but nihilism wins like a lot. Matthew Kelly once said on his podcast, like, if you want a great hit rate, bet against everyone in the rookie class. You would have the best hit rate. And that's pretty much true, actually. If you always said no, that player won't break out, the 3 wide receivers and the 4 running backs versus the 50 in the class that don't break out, that's a pretty good hit rate right there. It's like, it's the frustration I've had with projections or teams, and that I get so much right. But if you don't hit on David Montgomery, for goodness sake, then it doesn't kick you over the edge. And that's annoying, to get so much right and miss because of something that is essentially unknowable. That's kind of rookie classes. Like, there's a signal there. There's something that can help you compare Treadwell to Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs and go, okay, not Treadwell. But it's relative, and we're really lucky that rookie classes come in this year-by-year segment. Because if we had to do class into class, like in startup drafts, just rookies with no knowledge of them being in the NFL, we'd be pretty lost. It's hard to get Calvin Johnson to the top of the class, or Odell Beckham. it's really easy to get Demaryius Thomas to the top of the class, so we got that. But and Julio scores really well, but as you just saw, in comparison to other players since then who were good in that situation, you have to kind of have this multi-tiered approach. And even then, you have to wonder if it's right because it doesn't describe many other players. Like, embrace the nihilism, my man. Like, that's the answer. Nothing works. Nothing matters. I'm just going to go with what feels good. Honestly, better approach. Better approach than most things that I hear. Does it feel good to draft Philip Dorsett? No. DK Metcalf? Okay, then. Yeah, it feels good. Do it. I mean, doesn't feel good to draft N'Keal Harry. It did for me, but again, that's, different strokes. I certainly didn't after the fact. With what feels good. Is that what we've come to, Pete? Pretty much. Anyway, how does this class look in this three-tiered look, I guess would be the question. If we remove 2022, I got 3 players from the 2022 class, and that just happened accidentally. Just grabbing too many players. Let's see. All right, yeah, and this is why these players, I honestly think, this is why these players keep coming up in everyone's list in one way or another. Like, these are the ones that stand out. Not that they're the best in the class, but that they're the easiest to distinguish from the others based on what they did in their situation. Let's see. Let's do that. So you got Bateman, Taylor Wallace, who like Elijah Moore, just gets under-talked about, I really think. Like, 4 years ago, like, Taylor Wallace would be my secret super best friend in this class. Now, I need to see landing spot because I'm older and even more nihilistic and jaded. Rondo Moore, Elijah Moore, Tetarius Atwell, believe it or not, Jamar Chase, Devin Smith, Isaiah McCoy, who's not probably even going to be undrafted free agent at this point, which is sad for me. Amon St. Ra is kind of at the bottom, Dimey Brown. And then you've got a few players that look like lies when you look over their overall profile. But to be fair, J.D. Spellman, Keelan Stokes, and Seth Williams actually look like a legitimate profile, actually. I just did another video on him. And that's it. That's it. Those are the ones that stand out. I mean, in truth, there are plenty of players down here that are interesting, like Tamarian Terry. And this isn't my favorite way of looking at wide receivers, but it does a pretty good description of how well they did in their situation. It's putting all the most common names at the top, which says something, that we're all kind of targeting the same thing in the end. Honestly, the best one is still my pre-draft model. No matter what I try, I can't beat it. I want to because I want Seth Williams higher, man. But, and his Dominator score seems to suggest you should be. But, I mean, the numbers are the numbers, Mason. And unfortunately, my pre-draft model still kicks my ass on a statistical basis, at least. There it is. Yeah, pre-draft is operating at 22 in this broad-ass, nasty-ass sample. And it likes most of the same players, but it pushes Seth Williams down a little bit further than I'd like. Yeah, Bateman, Tetarius Atwell, who obviously is getting a bump from playing at Louisville, but I promise you, a team adjustment or conference adjustment sample-wide is a bad idea. Like, I've never seen one that works. So we just kind of have to know that he's playing in the Devontae Parker bracket, not the Bateman, not the Julio Jones bracket. He's just getting a bump, and there's no real way of fucking helping that without hurting our results elsewhere. So I like Tetarius Atwell, just not as much as everyone else who gets that kind of score, because I know he's coming from fucking Louisville. Elijah Moore, Chase, again, Taylor Wallace. And that one seems legitimate to me coming from Oklahoma. Again, I think he's a little under talked about, like Elijah Moore. And Dimey Brown, Isaiah McCoy, who, yeah, Zach, I can already hear you saying, what about Justin Watson, though? Yeah, that's kind of this guy, this class for me. And St. Ra shows up again. I've broken him down, though, and I see some problems on his profile. He's relying a little much on his age 18 production, to put it simply. Warren Jackson is just purely fake. profile, I'm pretty sure. Same with Ronnie Bell. They didn't play enough. They played in these terrible situations. Keelan Stokes, possibly. I haven't broken him down in more in depth, but I think he's going to fit into that bracket. Seth Williams, I've broken down twice now, and I think he's a little underrated by the model. But, the numbers are the numbers. In my ranks, I've pushed him up here to just above Dimey Brown, and obviously I've moved Isaiah McCoy down. Rearrange these players, and Chateris Atwell goes down just because of expectation of draft capital and opportunity. But really, the truth is his numbers are probably slightly inflated for playing at Louisville. I've just got no way of reasonably adjusting them that proves to be consistently over a large sample size accurate. I punish myself with this, by the way, guys. Like, I'd love to give Devontae Smith a boost or Jerry Jeudy a boost. But really, I would love to give Chateris Atwell a boost or not have to downgrade him in my expectations because of team situation. And I can't because that would be uneven. So that's that. And by the way, like, Elijah Moore was literally playing with two better wide receivers. And there is not a large conversation right now about how Elijah Moore should actually be much better than we think he is because he was held back by two good players, which Jerry Jeudy was not, by the way, it turns out. And no, the team matters crowd is just silent on that one, right? And just crickets. Because he's also short, which we just spoke about how that doesn't matter so much. But whatever. And by the way, despite playing with two good players, as most good players do, it didn't affect him. Like, he's still third in my pre-draft model. He looks great compared to team confidence and age, looking at their average, not their best season. So, that's what good players do. And Smith managed to do it enough in his last 2 years. Again, he rises into this kind of tier. Henry Ruggs didn't, and Jerry Jeudy was. If we rank both classes together, I think he's going to come out slightly worse than Taylor Wallace. Than Devontae Smith. And I like Jerry Jeudy. He had a great first year. But, there's Smith and Jeudy slightly worse. Yeah. Funny that. Like, funny how those team adjustments for what now proves to be not the best players in the world on Alabama ever. Where did those people go? Spend all last season defending one argument, then those people disappear, and I'm left facing the BMI truth of this year, and then they'll be gone after that once again doesn't prove to be the thing. Like, I wish the enemy wouldn't cower under rocks when it's not around, Cow under rocks was harsh, but there you go. You know what I was thinking? I should probably, like, the good thing about the Monday grind slot is that if at a push, like, I couldn't think of anything else to say, I could put on, like, the Open Bar podcast and we'd just watch it together. Like, that was my back out of jail. Like, if I really couldn't keep it up. Wait. Like, that was my out. But on Mondays, there's no such thing. Oh, are you kidding me? Anthony Amico just sent me a message on Twitter to say my video isn't available, even though it's meant to be available. Oh, that's why I've got it marked as private. Yeah, if anyone's got any questions, problems, nerding they want nerded on, let me know. We're just out here. I guess I should develop a more rigid format for live streaming, but I don't want to make this just another show or form of content. I'd rather just be a space for anyone who wants to chat about football, where I spend most time talking to people on podcasts or random people on Twitter or researching actual things. I thought casual chats would be more fun. I like it that way. I work better in chaos. That's what I'm going to say. Oh, hey. Hey, Dynasty John, how you doing? Have you checked out the UAW wide receiver? Haven't had a chance yet, but he's been brought up a bunch this week. UAW wide receiver? Probably need a name on that. I might not have him in the data set yet. If he's new, like he didn't have a date of birth before, I might not have been able to put him in. I'm assuming UAW is a school, University of Alabama, but not Alabama. Akron, Arizona. Okay, I'll look it up. Auburn. Alabama at Birmingham. Okay, yeah, so it is an Alabama school. I remember that one, but I can't remember what it's called. And can't names just be names? That's what I want to know. UAB. Cursor Conference. Cursor West, apparently it'll be called. Yeah, I might not have him in here. Oh, Jalen Darden. That's who you're talking about, isn't it? Right? Yeah, I've taken a look at him. I took a look at him live, though, so it's not like I've taken an in-depth look. Did I save his graph? Did I do a video on him? I got some content around here somewhere for you. Yeah, he looks interesting, but in a deep flyer kind of a way. He's not someone that's going to be pushing, my targets in round 1 or 2 or nothing. But as a deep flyer, I saw some potential on the glance that I've given him. We can look at him more in depth here. Speaking of it. No, I haven't done any content on him yet. All right. Yeah, let's do that. No. I was looking at Jalen Camp recently, if that's of any interest to you. John McGlynn sent me a DM. He was interested in this. I forget where he even plays. No, I don't. Georgia. Plays for a Georgia team. Jalen Darden, come on down. Where are you? Yeah, he looked terrible, by the way. But again, if you like a player through some part of your process, or he's just got athletic, like the 3rd or 4th round is just, every round in a rookie draft is take your guy. But strangely, despite having so many players to choose from at the top of a class, very few players actually relatively have good production. Otherwise, it wouldn't be much of a measure. Where's Jalen Darden, man? I thought I'd made his graph before. Yeah, there he is. All right, let's make it now. Let's do it live. Mm-hmm. Sorry for the silence. Some things take some concentration. Know what I mean? All right. Let's just check I don't have any of his 0 years in here. All right. So that's what Jalen Darden looks like compared to most players. Most players that succeed to some level. What I'm going to tell you now is something almost designed to trigger Zach Reed. This is Paris Campbell minus. Might be my just eye comparison to his production over time here. Production at different ages. Obviously, last year at 21 was his best season. Let's see. 12.1 yards per reception for his career. 3.9 yards per team pass attempt dominator. That's pretty neat. He's below average when you compare him to past prospects, which is kind of what that graph shows. But, he's been one of the better wide receivers on the Cursor West in some time, actually. The last player to get anywhere close to him for the Tulsa West in general, for the entire conference, was back in 2012. Carlos Henderson, who got some buzz as a third-round pick in the draft? Oh, I was getting Jarrett Dillon mixed up with him. Carlos Henderson might be my best comp for him, just looking through that specific conference. I don't know how he plays. Obviously, that's not a matter of, Carlos Henderson was meant to be this expert receiving return specialist, if I remember right. Yeah, he played over 6 games every season. He played 9 games last year. I'd have to dig into that why, but there's no missed time considerations going on here. And his last year being so jacked up, right? This year, I've just gotten used to writing it off because the 2021 class just has an outsized last year. Like all efficiency stats look that way at the moment. Carlos Henderson only played 3 years, but he also came out at 21, 22. I don't mind the production comp to Carlos Henderson for him, just off the top of my head. Last year, he was scoring 34 points per game. Yeah, okay. Carlos Henderson did 28 points per game his final year at age 21. Domination. Yeah, to be fair to Mr. Harden, when you look at his dominator rating, his last 2 seasons were actually pretty good. I do think 2020 should be adjusted down a little bit overall. But, at 20 years old, 2019, he had a 29% dominator rating. That's okay. Doesn't blow you out the water at age 20, but it's okay. And as weird as 2020 is, it's very clear he was doing some stuff last year. 55% dominator rating. Okay, dude, calm down. And it's really that last year that's pushing over his overall production in terms of his conference and his age. That's just a little hard to bet on. Overall, though, I see reasons to take a deep shot on him if you like the way he plays on the field, or, the NFL takes a swing on him to an interesting landing spot. I'm not going to talk anyone off him. He just doesn't stick out to me, but obviously Elijah Moore and that. But this is a different type, a different class, if you will, of players coming from the Cursor West, clearly. But yeah, slightly below average is better than terrible. I was never a huge fan of Carlos Henderson, mainly because of his age 21 breakout age. Darden at least has a 20 breakout age at the 20% threshold, like I mentioned in 2019. I don't hate that for a later flyer, It's not the best thing, but he's not the worst. Oh, Cole Beasley, the play you miss if you use the 30% threshold. Got to remember that name next time. Yeah, Darden's interesting, but, that's the highest praise I can give his profile right now, at least. There he is. Yeah, he comes out right below. He's in that next tier after Seth Williams is tier. I'd probably like him better than Ronnie Bell, Keelan Stokes, and Warren Jackson, who I think are fraudulent producers here, to be honest. But and so that puts him a little higher up in the old rankings. Can't remember why I've got him in my rankings overall. Let's go look at the raw stats. It's easier sometimes with these deeper players. Cursor West. Memories. I've liked a lot of Cursor West players. Cursor players in general. 3.9 yards per team pass attempt last year, as opposed to every other year being sub 1.7. 2 is kind of an interesting threshold to hit. Don never really got there until this last crazy 2020 year. So who's he playing for? I've got him listed as North Texas. Am I talking about the right guy for you? Austin Watkins. Okay. I just spent all that time talking about a different Coast West player. Let's see if I've got that fella for you. Don's interesting. Austin Watkins. No, I don't think I got him. All right. Let's try and add him, shall we? Why not? All right. So first up is if we have his date of birth. This is Dynasty League Football's Devi age table. Oop. Nope. Still got this name right? No. If he doesn't have an age, I can't even add him. There are other places to go look for age, but this is by far... You could spend hours and not get a better list than this. It was probably just DMing my friends to see if anyone has it. Or see if someone's already written an article about it. Yeah, Alabama, Birmingham. I'll tell you what we can do. I'll have him in here. I just won't know his age or his age adjustments. Or his yards per team pass attempt, for that matter. Alabama, Birmingham. How many years did he play? I mean, I can find out, but just a little easier. All right. Okay, so he was a dominant wide receiver on his team in 2020, last year. He was getting, what is it? 2.47 yards per team pass attempt, which is decent. Through 7 games, though, so it's a shrunken, exaggerated efficiency sample. But to be fair, in 2019, he was at 3.25 yards per team pass attempt. That's a really good number. Although I do notice, like, wide receiver 2 and 3 here is also elevated. So I don't know. That might be a function of Alabama, Birmingham. I haven't looked at them in a while. 2018, he was the second wide receiver on his team. Depending on his age, that's actually pretty... Oh, no. Sorry, that's someone else with a similar looking name. He was the bottom last. He was at the bottom of the depth chart in terms of points per game, at least, on his first year. And that's not a bad thing. Most players are, right? Even Jamar Chase wasn't the top 3 wide receiver of his team his first year. Top 2. Let's see. What else can I glance here? Because I don't have his age, a lot of these stats aren't populating. Don't have his breakout age. I've already got him listed as an undrafted free agent, apparently, because I need to... Oh, no, I've got him listed as unknown. Let's look at this Dominator here. I don't have his Dominator from 2020. I don't know why. I'd have to dig into the actual stats for that. 8% Dominator? Oh, that's above below. Oh, so shoot. Getting confused by my own database with that. But I don't even have his average. Okay, 23% Dominator last year, 34% Dominator in 2019. That's a good... He had a pretty good 2019, huh? Like the 1 year he played more than 8 games. That's good. Again, I need to go find his date of birth and stuff. Looks like he's a 3-year player, though. He didn't play in 2017, did he? No, he's a 3-year player. Didn't play much in his first season. Only played 4 games and wasn't much of the team. Then he blows up in 2019. Really, actually, that's pretty impressive, even for Alabama, Birmingham. Where is it? It's Curse of West, like you said, like we said. It fades a little bit in 2020, but that's again mainly because he played 7 games. It doesn't look like the whole team played 7 games either. It looks like he was injured or opted out for that year as well. So there's a little bit of a question mark on that last year. But his second year is pretty interesting. If he's 19 or 20 in 2019, I'm not worried about that. He's a 3-year player, so hopes are that he was 19 years old that season. That also, and the reason that's important is because it's another indicator of draft capital. The NFL also likes 3-year early breakouts. So it's kind of part of the signal that Anthony Amico and Harbaugh are piggybacking on, I think, to value experience and career year and stuff. So yeah, I mean, glance without the full profile. There's a lot more interest on Watkins' profile than Darden's in many ways. I think he's talking about Austin Watkins. Yeah, I figured it out eventually. Appreciate you. Bob, from all the comments, Zach should just be on the show with his info. Yeah, he should. I offered him to send him a link, and he was like, nah, I don't want to talk to those guys. I think you should get on Twitter and like tag him and let him know how offensive it is that he wouldn't come on live and talk to us. Wait, this is a guy from... this isn't the... Wait, isn't this guy Sammy Watkins' cousin? Potentially. He's playing in a much worse situation than Sammy Watkins was. Let me look him up. And I do actually hate the way that the NFL ends up talking about prospects like they're horses, but, whatever. Yeah, the cousin of NFL wide receiver Sammy Watkins, former Florida, made his own name in 2019. Yeah, that was a really good year for him with the Blazers. He led the team in receiving yards with 57 catches, 1,092 receiving yards, 19.2 per what? Catches, I guess, and 6 touchdowns in 14 games, sorry. Yeah, I just said all that. This is from NFL.com, by the way. On his second year All-Team Conference USA accolades, Watkins was a first-team All-Conference pick as a senior, starting all 7 games in 2020, by the way, leading UAB in receiving yards, 34 receptions, 468 yards. He was on for a pretty good year through those first 7 games, it looks like. 3 touchdowns, though. That's quite disappointing, actually. He's scoring touchdowns at the same rate. He accepted an invitation to the Senior Bowl. Watkins began his collegiate career at Dodge City Community College. Oh, that's neat. I actually like players that elevate from a lower level. It shows you can dominate and elevate at some level. I actually kind of like it as a signal. Where he can, and also explains why you're playing in the Curse of West a little bit, where he can contribute in both seasons with the Conquistadors, 330 yards, whatever. Fort Myers, Florida product, enrolled UAB in 2018, but redshirted after playing the first 4 games. That's what we said as well, as a reserve. So he's probably not playing at 19 years old in 1919 if he also went to community college for a year and then redshirted. I'm assuming he's going to actually be slightly older than that. I don't mind that. I think his second year there in 2019 is gonna look pretty good. Most players with those kind of numbers are gonna look pretty good, no matter what age you're playing at, unless it's your final season at age 22 or something silly. 34% dominator. He's gonna have a breakout age in that year. He's gonna be a second year breakout for people that care about age. I'm not concerned that he came from a lower conference. In fact, I consider that a positive. I mean, if you've shown ability to distance yourself and impress at one level enough that they elevate you to a higher level, I think that's a positive thing. Although less positive of why you had to go through that. But I mean, life's life. That happens. It can be awkward. Let's look at this 2019. He's really got 1 year to look at, which is a problem. But one we're getting used to. Unfortunately, 200 points, 14 points per game. I'll tell you what. How's he compared to wide receiver ones in the past? If I go over the ranks, just look at wide receiver ones. And this is specifically for that team. Just kind of curious. He was a wide receiver one last year, even though he only played 4 games or whatever, 7 games. Yeah, he's definitely the best wide receiver to come from there. I mean, J.J. Nelson, if you remember him making some noise with the Cardinals for a while. Closest to him on this team. I don't know how they play it again. Oh, Roddy White, if you dig back far enough. Is that the Roddy White, though? Back in 2003 and 4? Yeah, it looks like it was. That was back when it was just the cursor, not the cursor West, but there you go. Let's compare it to Roddy White a little bit here. Okay, yeah, Roddy White was significantly better. And granted, this was like 10 years ago. Like, it's not the same team and all. And Roddy White was a different kind of animal than most players, to be fair. But, you know, like, don't get me wrong, Mr. Austin here actually looks pretty interesting. But, like, I think it takes like 3 seconds to see, like, okay, here's Roddy White. He was getting 2.53 yards per team pass attempt his first year as a wide receiver one in 2003. 2004, playing 12 games, it jumps up to 4.02. That's very good yards per team pass attempt. On the other hand, the most impressive since Roddy White, to be fair, but Watkins starts off at 3.25, which is good. Dang. Actually, it actually starts out a little higher than Roddy White and then drops to 2.47. Like, I would be fine with Austin being the best player this team has seen since Roddy White and a different conference. The next comparable is J.J. Nelson, who is more recent, 2013, 2014. And his numbers are also inflated to the era in which Roddy White was playing, to be honest. Dominator, which is a little bit resistant. I mean, you dominate or you don't. Roddy White had a 38 and 50% dominator because Roddy White was a different kind of animal. I think we know that now. J.J. Nelson had 37 and 24. Watkins was 34, 23. Yeah, so I think he's much more J.J. Nelson production-wise than he is Roddy White. And it's nice to have a same team comparison on here, actually, from like the best we could possibly hope for to the floor. A floor of some kind of relevance in dynasty football, but not what we're really hunting in J.J. Nelson. Austin Watkins falls in between those two. So, and that's really good, actually. If you're taking a third-round wide receiver, of all the third-round wide receivers I've seen, he fits in there very nicely. I'd be very happy. That's fine. Draft dependent and everything else. Yeah, I think he looks good. Roddy White. Some players just stick out so perfectly. It's unbelievable. Yeah, and again, that's Sammy Watkins' cousin. Who I do not have an age for, it turns out. I'll find it and add him in. Not today, though. Well, not right now. I'm checking Twitter on me. You go quiet, and I'm going to go talk to my other friends. I'm not joking. Like, I got people who like to talk to me. I don't have to be here for this abuse. I'm just joking, obviously. Scroll Twitter together. That sounds like fun. Okay, Anthony. Yeah, I fixed this. I keep setting videos to private when I'm just uploading them because I want to go make their thumbnails and stuff before I publish them. And sometimes I forget to change that. Apparently, I'm on a podcast here with Andy Etheridge. That's neat. The DM's burning away. Still quiet? I really thought the threat would help. No? Alright. Tell you what, I kind of feel I'm not burnt out. I keep talking about this stuff and I never got tired of it. Whenever I get on a podcast, I can't shut my mouth. Well, when I sit down, I'm like, okay, what am I going to write about or talk about right now? I'm kind of drawing a blank. That's mostly because I don't know what I've already said that people haven't heard yet. If you know what I mean? It's like BMI and the Combine. I thought I'd put out my ideas pretty conclusively, and apparently not, because like still a bunch of people are surprised by what I think or don't know what I think about it or haven't seen my little marble comparison. And there's got to be something else. That's the way Dynasty content is made. You keep finding out people didn't hear you the last time you said something, and so you re-say it. That's actually most of what this is. Believe it or not. My marble metaphor, I believe, was well received. I thought it was pretty well received. Then again, that's coming from someone who never goes far and doesn't expect to, so it's all relative. I think I had some trade-offs to consider as well. Okay, this is a weird league, though. So, this is a John Bosch league, which means all offers should be, not compared to your regular, just in case you read them. We still haven't drafted yet, and I've done more trades in this league than I normally ever do through a first year, and we literally haven't even had the draft yet. It's called the Kaleidoscope League, where everyone gets to pick any player in any round. So you can trade for multiple picks in the same round and get 2 first-round picks, and you can have, whichever 2 players you want. Like, someone else can't snipe you, essentially. You're drafting based on ADP, and everyone has access to every player in every round. But once that round passes, then you can't draft anyone from those earlier rounds. Yeah, like I said, it's a little bit of a weird league. It's John Bosch. What you going to do? Man doesn't know how to have a regular league anymore. So someone wants my 1st and 10th for my 4th and 5th. So that's basically Patrick Mahomes for... Everyone wants Patrick Mahomes, man. Oh, actually, they want to draft Patrick Mahomes and another first-round player. That would be what that actually is. 4th, 5th-round player, I'd be giving up access to Jamar Chase, Mixon, Robinson, Juju Smith-Schuster. Or I'd be getting access to those players, rather. Also, Deontay Johnson, Kenny Golladay. Also, the 10th round. I think the 10th round is a little harsh. If you're already getting my first-round pick, don't be asking for a top 10-round pick on top of that. You know what I mean? Screw you. Like, I want Patrick Mahomes and really going to add an and there. You want Patrick Mahomes and something. What do you think you're offering me here that you get an and? You know what I mean? The disrespect, not really, but, that's kind of my thought on it. If I'm giving you that first-round pick, you don't get an and. Come get the first, but fine. But don't ask for sauce on top. I really need some encouragement to take your first-round startup pick. Like, no, you don't really, do you? This player wants to give me their first-round pick. And the thing about this is, because we're drafting on ADP, it doesn't matter where those picks are. It's just a round pick. You can get any player in that round that's drafted in that round based on ADP. So I want to give my first, 2nd, 4th, and 8th. Okay. So I'm moving up a round by giving up a 4th and an 8th round pick. Not really. The way this league goes, everyone's just trying to stockpile picks in within the first 8 rounds, and what that does is trade me out of 2 of those rounds. Like, no. I don't even know what the ADP is going to be yet, so why would I do that? I've also been considering trading T. Higgins a lot. I got him in a few places. I keep thinking, no, probably sell that guy. Wide receiver there. increased in value year one. That sounds like a good sell. Apparently, I already saw him on this team. Oh, I saw him a lot, apparently. All right. What's the trade bait? Oh, it's so hard to find. There we go. You see, Wolffeller's on the trade block, but I don't think that's sincere. What's the difference between T. Higgins and Wolffeller? Anyone? No? Okay. I'm looking up. T. Higgins. Fuller. Obviously, with no one with Will Fuller on the roster wants to sell him, but that's Devin Fuller. Come on now. Will Fuller. 300 points difference. So that's one Jerry Jeudy or David Montgomery. Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. I wish I'm going to make this suggestion. I like this suggested players column. I don't know if you've ever played around with DLF Trade Calculator, and trade calculators are what they are. And you can adjust the value and stuff. But like this suggested players column is really useful because one of the things with trade calculators that I don't like is just the trades they suggest are not ones you can make. You don't have those players on your team. Now with DLF, you can actually sign in with My Fantasy League and it can look at your team, which is neat. But I'm always too lazy to do that. So it's like Javonte Williams. That's an interesting rookie valuation. Difference between Higgins and Fuller right now. So he got. Ah, man, he doesn't have David Montgomery. That's too much. J.K. Dobbins is going to be too much as well, isn't he? Yeah, way too much. Coleman, screw that. What's he got in terms of picks? 106. So you re-roll it? Not so interested in that. Although you could probably get Javonte Williams at the 106, right? Wouldn't hate that move. It's a 1 QB league. Okay, that's not going to tell me that. No, I need the ADP. Why is ADP so hard to find right here? I've asked and asked for that just to be a button at the top of the page. There it is. Rookie ADP. Okay, right now Javonte Williams is going at the 104, so no. Looking at Rashad Bateman, he's looking at a wide receiver, unfortunately. It's not really what I'm targeting. With T. Higgins. Probably re-roll it, though. I don't know I'd actually get that. Thoughts? T. Higgins for Will Fuller on the 106. Go. You 6 quiet lurkers? No? Okay. Let's see. Jarvis Landry's up there too. Who's more? I like the idea of targeting Fuller, but Landry's worth less than Will Fuller right now. How comes? 2 years older. Okay. People are weird. Here's the thing. I would target Juju on this guy's roster, but I don't think he's as cheap as everyone thinks. Could you get Juju on the 106? Is that a thing a trade calculator thinks is reasonable? Oh my god, it's not that far off. Probably too much, though. Man, this guy's roster is just resplendent with the receivers. I can't wait to waste my capital on. Will Fuller and Juju are about the same price. Okay. Not Will Fuller. Juju and Colton Sutton are about the same. Yeah. Colton Sutton's about the same age as Will Fuller, by the way. The year difference or whatever. You would? That bodes well for that kind of trade being accepted. I like T. Higgins, don't get me wrong, but I like Will Fuller fine. My teams right now could use a little extra value. Unless I hit it out the park with some deep running backs this year, they can't win. My highest pick is 210 as well. So. Speaking of which... Oh, wow. 210 is 83 points. Okay. So that's not the difference. Yeah, if that was in a trade pool, I'd just take the Higgins side. But this roster's fine. I hate being fine, though. Go up and get Bateman, to be fair. Well, right now, you'd be getting Bateman or anything. His draft capital is in danger. Elijah Moore is a little outside my range. Start of the first. That's unfortunate. It's just a little off with 106 not being likely a running back pick. You don't really have running backs on them. I don't know. A mullet. No, he's never played a full season, but whenever he's on the field, he's a top 12 wide receiver. As far as his injuries go, believe it or not, all of them are unlikely to repeat. They're not ones that typically continually plague players, as I understand it from physiotherapists. They're not something he suffered from in college either, so it seems like a training routine problem, if I were to guess, but I'm not a doctor. So essentially what you're getting is a top 12 player when he's on the field at a discount because people think he's going to keep being injured. But I'm not sure we know he's going to keep being injured, which means you've got a top 12 player sitting at a discount. That's why, honestly. Pretty simple. Pretty simple logic. Let me see. Do I have that calculation in here? I'm pretty sure he's paid off at whatever his cost was every season as well. He's one of those players that actually outperforms on a point per game injury. And because Will Fuller is someone who is either on the field or injured, it's fairly easy to know when to fade him, if you know what I mean. So let me check that out. Seems like that type of player. ADP expectation. Where's his actual production, though? I don't have it in this one. All right. I've really got to update this. I want to put all data in here instead of just last year's data. It's a work in progress. Those are my ranks. That's different. All right. Where's playing with ADP? Again, don't get me wrong. It's a risky bet. I don't think Will Fuller's going to finish top 12 next year, but it's within his range of outcomes at a discount. And if I can add something else with that to mean that the value's good, I'm trying to get points and value at the same time when you put a player like Will Fuller in there. And that's kind of the way I think. I'm a safety player, especially regular season and in trades. Like, I want everything to even out. Taking big swings is a better way to win. I just don't think that way. Yeah, he's paid off every year. His cost preseason has paid off on a points per game basis at least every year. And I get that he's been injured a lot. But if that keeps up and he plays more than whatever it was last year, 7 games, then you got a great player who could have a top 12 season at a discount because of injuries, which people feel overly confident in terms of their likelihood of continuing. That's where my head goes. Hamstrings definitely come back, bro. Okay. Again, I was talking about reoccurrence based on players with a lack of history in it in college. This isn't something that he picked up in his entire life. It's been specifically in the NFL. And again, that's not based on my research. It's based on a physiotherapist who plays fantasy football and ran the numbers on it. They're not injuries that typically repeat, but I get it. Outside of that, I'm thinking about trades. And if you can find me another wide receiver who's always been a top 12 wide receiver when he's on the field for this value, then I'll tell you I'll like them more. But you don't get top 12 wide receivers for less than the 1.6. You know? That's why I like him. He's valued right now the same as, let's see, 213. The 111. I mean, yeah. I think that's what we're doing with the 111 anyway. We're trying to find a top 12 wide receiver. And I know less about those guys at the 111 than I know about Will Fuller. Will Fuller, I just got to hopefully bet he's healthy and he keeps up what he has done before. He's on a new team and stuff, but I don't care about the shiny stuff. I got offered Rager and a 3rd round pick for a 1st round pick in 2 years. It's tempting to a Rager stan, I guess. Try not to trade first-round picks that far out. Could trade for it back with Wolf. I guess. It's actually pretty close. Throw a second-round pick on it? Why not? Just go full value. Again, I'd rather have Juju Smith-Schuster. But you also have to pay a lot more for that. I guess because of the 2-year age difference. From my perspective, anyway. Who's Will Fuller from last year? That's a weird question. Seventh-round wide receiver, 26 years old with an injury history, I guess. It's a year column. Look at 2020 ADP, right? Wide receiver. Round 7. Brandon Cooks, I guess. It's a solid floor. Jarvis Landry might make a better comparison. No, there's no injuries there. Come on. Think harder, Pete. T.Y. Hilton. It's a downside. Oh, Will Fuller, actually. This is where he was valued last year. 8th round. Man, Juju's really fallen. Juju's a better target. Full on. Just start salivating when you think you see a player going at value, you know? Yeah, where was he? Yeah. I was thinking, actually, this time of year is around about when disappointing rookies from last year can start to be bought, because everyone wants the new rookies, and the closer you get to the draft, the more disappointing Jalen Reagor feels. You know? And he was disappointing year one. Why send one offer when you can send two, I guess? That's too even. Yeah, I guess. Meh. T. Higgins is going to owe me next season. I already feel it. I'm just sending these trades out of board. And I'm going to have to regret it the rest of my life. There you go. All right, so who's the running back I look into next? I got to make this list again. I have a lot more 2022 running backs in here. Weird. Let's see. Looked at. Done. Have I done Puka Williams? I don't know. Let's check that out. I know I want to look at Felton, whatever his name is. There he is. Demeric Felton. The one I'm meaning to look at for a while. Dynasty ADP, please. Pardon me. Sorry, I don't mean to glug in your ear. Let's see, who don't I know about here? All of them. No, Trace Oman got Kalen Hill. Patterson, I don't know who Khalil Herbert is. Javian Hawkins. Elijah Mitchell. Isn't he the combine star? A running back makes slightly more sense. Harry Roundtree, really? That's an awesome name. Team Boyd. Another good name. I actually have to dig into the second-ranked tight end in this class. I still haven't really looked at Pat. Hey, good things, though. Look at Brevin Jordan. I got to take a closer look at Hunter Long. Kenny, look, your boy. I don't think Tommy ever stood out to me, but take a closer look. I think we're about through with wide receiver. Apparently I have to do a Jalen Darden one. And I guess we should look at Austin Watkins as soon as I find his date of birth, at least. I haven't done Dwayne Escrowage because I don't think I care. The disrespect on Tutu Atwell's name right now is just kind of freaking surreal to me. Sage Surratt, who also I'm not a big believer in, but I haven't looked at him closely. As Newsom, I know who he is, but it was Dimey, I think. I caught a glimpse of him. Tick, tick, tick. Yeah. Twice, actually. Elijah Moore. Yeah. Amon St. Marie. I think I did a video on Amon. Yes, I did. Tamron Wallace. Kadarius Toney. I guess I haven't done a video on him specifically because there's not much to say. Add him to the list just in case. Murray Rogers, another uninteresting prospect. Anthony Swartz, someone I've heard the name, haven't looked. No interest. Do we have we have April rookie ADP, apparently. But not startup ADP? How weird is that? Yeah, okay. Should probably start tracking the Superflex ADP as well. We have April ADP for that. Maybe we'll stop tracking regular 1QB data. No. We kind of just stopped it completely. I remember seeing some sort of email about how we were going to focus Superflex. I'd have to redo my log formula, though. It's a lot of quarterbacks round one, huh? It feels like more than it used to be, or was last year. Well, you have the button right there, Pete. Why don't you go look? This time last year. Yeah, wow. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 quarterbacks were taken in the first round of ADP Superflex this time last year. This year, right now, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 9 in the first round. I don't think, by the way, Matt, I don't think the pads are why he didn't get injured. PEDs don't really help with your hamstrings. Again, from the research that I read. All right. Yeah, I think I'm going to get out of here. I got more laziness. No, projections. I got to do more work on my projection model because I haven't yet finished doing that. The draft is getting close upon us. And all these rookies, apparently, I have yet to do videos on. I got to get them done pre-draft because I got to finalize my ranks. Yeah. All right, everyone. I appreciate you hanging out for another Monday grind. Very, very casual, even compared to usual Monday grind this week. But I appreciate the questions. And some of you are hopping on here to call me names and Zach to out-nerd me in my own nerd chat. Yeah, you're wonderful. Thanks again. Every Monday, including in the season, so when we actually have start sit questions, actually questions that require more pressing answers, I tend to increasingly get more involved in projections for right now for next season over the coming weeks. Obviously, we've got the draft and the build up to the draft, and so that's where everyone's head is. But I have to get my head buried back in projections here in a little while, and so that might become a larger feature of the Monday grind here again. Just to let you know. Anyway, thanks again. I will talk to you next Monday, also on the podcast every week. I just dropped this week's or last week's episode of the podcast before coming on here, so that's out, and obviously I'm on YouTube and stuff. But really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you again next Monday, if nothing else. Right? Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.